Hello, here I am today in Cancun, Mexico. Cancun is becoming quite a popular tourist destination, not least as it's considerably cheaper now post-pandemic than the likes of Jamaica, Antigua, Barbados and so on. There's some things you probably should be aware of before you come here, so this is what you need to know before you go to Cancun. Cancun is on the east coast of Mexico, about 9 to 10 hours flight direct from London, depending on the tailwind. And as I just mentioned, Cancun is one of the most cost-effective destinations to go to in and around the Caribbean. You'll see here starting prices for next July, for example, are £1,170, which is considerably cheaper than some of the others. I mean, look at that, 4,000 for Turks and Caicos. Pretty effective as well in premium economy. You will see the price goes up by a few hundred quid, but certainly cheaper than Antigua, Barbados, Grenada, Jamaica, Dominican, but Dominican's probably not quite as nice. So yeah, if you're after a competitive destination in the Caribbean, Mexico and Cancun is one of the best options you can go for. But let's get on to some of the practicalities of what you need to know before you go. The first one I have for you, and this is something that threw us off completely. It's the entrance, or the exit, I should say, at Cancun International Airport. Unfortunately, I didn't have my camera on me, so I've had a quick look around the interweb and YouTube, and I found this great video from VertCam Travel. Thanks, VertCam Travel. They documented the entrance a lot better than I did because I believe their video was filmed on, was it New Year's Eve or early hours of New Year's Day? So it was practically dead in the airport, very quiet. We went in the middle of summer, so there was lots of people heaving. So yeah, this video kind of gives you a sense of the geography, but not quite the intensity. And fair enough, flag up the fact that it's heaving during the summer months. But anyway, let's get back to it. Now, you go through the airport. It took us quite a while, about an hour and a half to get through passport control, and it seemed forever, at least half an hour waiting for the bags. But anyway, once you've got all that done, you head out through the doors. Now, it's not the actual exit doors, so you get completely thrown off. You walk through these doors. There's a slew of car rental companies. There's tons of tour guides over there. So you initially start looking for your pickup, like we were with Amistar, which is blue shirt, beige trousers, nothing to be seen. Of course, what happens is that everyone's looking a bit befuddled, confused. Perfect opportunity for someone to come in and try and sell you something, whether it's a tour or some kind of exchange rate or some kind of product. I don't even understand what he was saying. So my tip is first set of doors, come out, ignore everybody, turn right. There's a second set of doors, which is the real exit. And once you're out there, you'll see the pickups and taxi people. Ignore all the other vendors shouting at you, saying taxi, 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 and all that. Just hone in straight on your person. So yeah, that's my first tip. Okay, we move on to the next issue, which is location. See, Cancun is up here, which is good. The Playa de Carmen is another popular area, and then you go all the way down to Tulum, which is, oops, just missed it there, it's Tulum. Now, why this is important is that Cancun International Airport is here, which is good. So all these hotels along here are pretty close to the airport. So you're going to be maybe 20 minutes max getting from the hotel to your airport in terms of transfer, which is great news. However, a lot of the tourism in terms of the day trips and so on tend to go from Playa de Carmen or Tulum, which means if you choose a hotel further north, you can add up to 45 to 50 minutes, even an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours getting to some of these places. So bear that in mind that if you are looking at the day trips, the further north you are, the longer it may take. And as we're on the topic of day trips, it's worth noting that there are a lot of day trip options in Cancun. Here I am, for example, on the Viator website, and we've got 3,285 results, which is a stonking amount. A lot of those are repetition, so you're going to have to go through, make some important choices, remembering things like pickup times. So, for example, we did two trips, looking at a lot of the pickup times there early. I was quoted 5 a.m. for Chichen Itza. We had a sort of 6:45 a.m. one for Tulum, and it was 7 a.m. for Colorado. So the first thing to do is check the times because these can be very, very long days, especially if you are staying in the north. And the reason for those pickup times is don't expect all these fantastic attractions to be very close to where you're staying. There are not. If you're staying sort of in Cancun or where we were, sort of on the Riviera, it's at least 2.5, I think, 3 hours to Chichen Itza. The Tulum was initially 2 hours, but it involved more pickup, so that took forever. And the worst one was Colorados, which was just a complete farce in the end. That was sort of 6 hours. So yeah, prepare for some long days. Another couple of things you'll find on these trips is the small versus large groups. I'd probably go for the small groups over the large groups because you're going to go to some of these places and having massive coach loads of people is going to be a bit of a pain. The other major factor is the hidden costs. You'll tend to find, see, look at this entrance admission. They do or they don't tell you what the amount is, and sometimes it just changes on the day. Let's see, Tulum also has entrance. There we go. Just sort of arbitrary things, really. So don't expect what you pay to be the final amount. There are plenty of hidden costs, which also tend to fluctuate as to whether you pay in US dollars or Mexican pesos. And actually, while we're on currencies, the pesos is the official currency of Mexico, but US dollars are widely accepted. The challenge you will find is that exchange rates are all over the shop. People just kind of charge really what they want, and it can be a little bit annoying because you're going to get shortchanged a lot. You're going to get inflated prices. So it really just depends on what people want to charge. So yeah, it's just a bit on. But if you take both pesos and US dollars, and you've got the time and inclination to work out the exchange rate, you can save yourself hopefully a bit of money. But yeah, expect quite a lot of skimming to be happening on all these transactions. One final point on day trips. Not only are they long, don't expect the transportation to be the most generous in terms of space. Here's an example of one of our buses. It was but good bus, got air conditioning, it had a toilet, but the seats were pretty narrow. The minibuses were even worse. You're already packed in there. Also head height. The amount of times I get banging my head, and I'm not even that tall. I'm only 5'10", but numerous times banging my head on the coach, on doors. Here's an example. This is the toilet in the coach. This is eye level. This was my eye level. So yeah, either wear a crash helmet or keep ducking. But yeah, if you're tall or if you're of a how do I put it nicely? If you're big boned, yeah, if you're big boned, you may find some of these a bit of a squeeze. So potentially consider a private tour to minimise the discontent. Anyway, moving on to the next one, which is the beaches. Cancun sells itself on being a luxury Caribbean paradise. Partially that's true, but certainly be aware of where you're staying because I don't think it's accurate for all the places you can stay. We are actually in the Riviera at the moment at Breathless, and you probably heard a lot about the seaweed situation. But the other thing is don't expect the tranquil turquoise waters, certainly around this area. Let me see if I can just flip the camera around. As you can see, the seaweed is pretty prevalent, but also not quite that sort of lovely turquoise waters I was thinking. It reminds me a bit of the Dominican Republic, that you don't have that same level of loveliness that you get in the brochures. I mean, it's perfectly pleasant, but yeah, probably not on the top 10 beaches to visit in the world. I think the general consensus is that the beaches further south, Playa del Carmen and Tulum, are a lot prettier. So yeah, maybe go further down if you want nicer beaches, because that initial stretch, maybe from the airport down to what they call the Riviera, for some reason, wasn't the greatest. So there should be plenty of other options available. Let's look at wrapping things up with a few sort of more of the quick fire things to be aware of. There are quite a lot of animals in Cancun, a lot more in hotels, or my hotel at least, than you potentially would find in other resorts in Caribbean islands. A lot more bugs, tons of bugs. So surprisingly so. So make sure you bring your DEET, full powered DEET. We found some fun animals as raccoons and iguanas and all that sort of stuff. But have your wits about you because I think some of them. I think the raccoon. Is it the cootie? We had a cootie. I believe they got rabies. Or can obviously have pick up some nasty stuff. So other things would be the Wi-Fi. It's pretty well known. I think the Wi-Fi and reception in the area wasn't very good. We were constantly being dropped out of Wi-Fi at the hotel, which is a bit disappointing for a five-star, but not a lot I can do about it. Likewise, on the day trips, we would often go hours without a signal. It could be that I was bringing my UK phone, but I had both my work phone and my personal phone, so both on different networks. So neither of them were great. But yeah, that wasn't the best part. So don't expect to have constant coverage, at least if you're coming from the UK. And one final thing would be potholes and bumps in the roads. There are quite a lot of them, and some of them are quite noticeable. So if you've got a bad back, try and be a little bit conscious of that, whether it's trying to find somewhere to sit in the bus that wouldn't jar yourself as much. Anyway, so those are some things about Cancun. Hopefully that's useful, and I'll see you next time.